My son kicked me out of his own house, but he didn't know what I had hidden in the safe. Father, you need to get out of this house now. The words of my own son echoed through the room as a death sentence. I was there, standing in the middle of the room that I had furnished with the sweat of my face, looking at that 32-year-old man I created, educated and loved as if it were the extension of my own soul. Carlos was casting out from my own home. Carlos, my son, what are you talking about? My voice came out shaky because deep down I already knew something terrible was happening. This is our house, son, the house of our family. He laughed, a cold laugh, devoid of any affection I had ever seen in those eyes. Beside him, Fernanda, my daughter-in-law, had a satisfied smile on her face, a smile that made my stomach wrap. She was leaning against the wall, her arms crossed as if watching a show. Our home? Carlos crossed his arms, imitating his wife's stance. Father, the Lord is confused. This house is no longer yours. It was never, in fact. I felt the world turn around me. At 58, after a lifetime working as a bricklayer, building houses for others and finally getting my own, I was being humiliated by my own blood. The son I had raised alone since I was 4, when my wife Lucia died of cancer. Son, I don't understand. I bought this house with the money from my economies. I worked 25 years to get what we have here. My voice was failing as if the words refused to get out of my throat. Ah, Father, stop drama, Fernanda finally said, pushing a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. With that sweet voice, she used to deceive everyone, but today was loaded with poison. The Lord is getting old, it's confused. This house was bought by Carlos with his money. The blood boiled in my veins. His money? Fernanda, what money? I paid his college. I bought his first car. The Lord, that nothing. Carlos approached me, and for the first time in my life I saw hatred in his eyes. True hatred. The Lord has always been a dead weight in this family. A drunk bricklayer who never knew how to give a decent life to anyone. Drunk? Where was this story coming out? My name is Sebastião Silva Santos, but everyone calls me his Tiao. I was born in Minas Gerais, in the city of Itajuba, in a beaten, crashed house where piped water was luxury. I came to Sao Paulo still 19, carrying only one cardboard suitcase, 2 seedlings of clothing, and a dream of giving a better life to the family I would still build. I have been working as a bricklayer for almost 40 years. I started carrying dough in the buckets, climbing and going downstairs all day for 5 reais a day. My knees are destroyed, my back hurts every day, and my hands are marked by corns that will never come out. But it was with these hands that I raised walls, that I carried cement bags, that I mixed mass until my fingers bleed. Everything to give my only child what I never had. Study, good home, opportunity. When I met Lucia, I was 24 and she was 20. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, with a smile that illuminated any environment. We got married in the church of Vila Madalena, in a simple but full of love ceremony. When Carlos was born 2 years later, I was 26 years old, and already knew that he would be the biggest project of my life. Lucia died when Carlos was only 4 years old. Breast cancer. It was 2 years of struggle, hospital, doctor, treatment. I sold everything I had to pay the private treatment because the SUS was queued. It was no use. She died on a Thursday afternoon holding my hand, making me promise that I would give Carlos anything possible, and that's what I did. I worked in 3 jobs for years, bricklayer in the morning, safety at night, and cleaning ox on weekends. Carlos never knew because I didn't want him to feel guilty. For him, I just worked hard. I paid private school since the first year. I sold my only inheritance, a gold clock that my father left me to buy the first-year books of college. When he graduated from business administration at Mackenzie Presbyterian University, I cried with pride in the degree. I was in the front row with the only suit I had, seeing my boy receive the diploma. It was my son, Doctor, graduated, and now, this same son was messing me like I was a mutt dog. Carlos, my son, look at me. I tried to get closer to him, but he stepped back, as if I was contagious. I'm your father. Remember when you were little and had nightmares? Remember when you wanted that Caloi red bike and I worked 2 months of extra time to buy? Remember when you got sick with pneumonia and I slept 3 nights in the hospital? He arrives, Carlos shouted, hitting his fist on the coffee table, the same table I had bought last year to give him a birthday gift. Enough of this story of father hero. The Lord has never done anything for me that any father would not do, and now he's old, sick, just giving expense. Fernanda is pregnant, father. We need space. Pregnant? The news hit me like a punch in my chest. I felt my legs bamper. Was it going to be a grandfather? And was discovering it like this, in the middle of an expulsion? But son, this is wonderful. I will be a grandfather. I can help take care of the child. I can— No! Fernanda shouted, pointing her finger at me. You won't touch a finger on my son. Child needs a healthy environment, not a moody gummy pissing off. Each word was a stab. I had changed that boy's diaper until he was 3, because he didn't want anyone else to do. I who had taught him to walk, holding his little hands in the living room of this same house. I who had taught him to speak daddy as the first word. I had taught him to ride a bike in the backyard, running after him until he got it alone. I who had been whole nights at the hospital when he had pneumonia at the age of 5, praying that he wouldn't die like his mother had died. But I never drank, son. Fernanda, where did you get this story of alcohol from? My voice was failing, but I needed to understand. I take a beer every now and then over the weekend, but I never had a problem with drink. Carlos and Fernanda exchanged a look of complicity that made me the blood freezing in the veins. It was as if they were following a script. Father, are you denying now? Carlos shook his head, making an expression of disappointment that seemed rehearsed. Did you forget the times that you got home staggering at home? The times you screamed with me for no reason? What bottles? What screams? Carlos, what is happening here? I was starting to understand that there was something very wrong happening. You are inventing these things. Son, you can stay with the house. My voice came out low, broken. The despair was taking over me. I can live in the back room, I promise I won't disturb. I just want to be close to the family. I just want to meet my grandson. No, Father. The Lord did not understand. Carlos pulled a yellowish paper from his shirt pocket. This house is not yours. It has never been. You signed the transfer to me 2 years ago, remember? When you had that serious problem with alcohol? My heart stopped. I looked into the paper in his hands and felt the world collapse around me. What a transfer, son. I never signed any transfer. I don't even remember signing any roll. Ah, Father, did you forget? Fernanda made a face of false concern, like a soap opera actress doing a dramatic scene. The Lord was a little confusing even then. Drinking too much, talking alone, having hallucinations. We were very worried, and the Lord even asked to transfer the house to Carlos so as not to lose everything because of addiction. This is a lie, I shouted, and my voice echoed the whole house. The words came out with a force that I didn't know I still had. I never did it, you're lying, I never had any addiction. Father, you are screaming again. Carlos shook his head, as if he was talking to a bullshit child. You see, Fernanda, it's exactly this behavior that we can't accept here at home, not with a baby coming. We can't expose our child to this kind of violence. Violence? What violence? I was just defending the truth. I was being crazy. They were inventing a complete story about alcoholism, home transfer, violent behavior. All lie, all manufactured. But how to prove it? How to fight the word of my own son? And it's no use trying to question anything, your Tio. Fernanda approached me with a victorious expression on her face. Everything was done right. Transfer registered in the notary with recognition of firm witnesses. The Lord has nowhere to grasp. The house is ours. Look, Dad, I'll be very clear with the Lord. Carlos approached me, and for the first time in all these years, I was afraid of my own son. You have exactly an hour to put your things together and get out of this house. If you don't go well, I'll call the police and say that you are threatening me and disturbing the peace of my family. Carlos, for God's sake, I am your father. I am the man who created you. It was my father. He said that looking straight into my eyes without blinking. Now the Lord is only an inconvenient old man who is disrupting our lives. The legs were completely missed. I sat heavily on the brown couch that I had bought an installment 10 years ago, paying 48 times on the card. The same couch where Carlos used to sit to watch television with me on Sundays. The same couch where I had taught him to read when he was in the first year of elementary school. And another thing, you Tiao. Fernanda approached, placing her hand on her still smooth belly. Don't think about pissing off looking for us, wanting to see the baby. The Lord is not welcome in the life of our family. The Lord is past. Ancient history. They had thought of everything, or almost everything, because there was something they didn't know. One thing I had discovered by chance a few months ago, and since then it was running inside. One thing I had hidden very well, waiting for the right time to use. There, in my room, inside the small safe that was behind the old wardrobe that belonged to my mother, there was something that would completely change this story. Something that would prove not only who really was the owner of that house, but something much more important. Something that would show the true face of the two who were casting out like an animal. Something they never imagined that I knew. He as well. I got up slowly, feeling each of my 58 years weighing on my back. I'll get my things. It's an hour, Dad. Carlos looked at the gold wristwatch I had given him on his 30th birthday. And no drama, please. No crying or doing scene. We have already decided. And nothing to try to take what is not yours. Fernanda completed. Only your personal clothes. The rest stays. I climbed the wooden stairs for the last time as the owner of that house. At least that's what they thought. Each step ranged under my feet as if the house itself was crying for the injustice that was happening. In my room, I went straight to the solid wood wardrobe. I pulled my clothes hanging and revealed the small black safe that was fixed on the wall since the day I moved there. I opened with the combination that only I knew, 2804, the date of birth of Carlos. April 28. Even after all, even after humiliation, even after betrayal, it was still the most important date of my life. Inside the safe were 4 things I kept as a treasure: a sealed envelope, a small golden key, an old cassette tape, and a photo of Lucia. I just took the sealed envelope. The rest would be there, waiting for the right moment. Because if Carlos and Fernanda thought I was just a confused, drunk, and helpless, they were very mistaken. They did not know that I had discovered their plan 3 months ago, and they definitely didn't know what was inside that brown envelope. When they discovered the truth, it would be too late. The war was just beginning. I grabbed my old travel suitcase, the same one I had brought from Minas Gerais almost 40 years ago, and started to store my few clothes. The hands trembled as I folded the work shirts, the jeans spent, the patched socks. Each piece of clothing told a story of struggle, dignity, a man who never had much but always worked honestly. Downstairs I could hear Carlos and Fernanda talking. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone was of celebration. They were celebrating my expulsion. 1 hour, father, Carlos shouted from the floor. We don't have all day. I kept the vault envelope in the inner pocket of the denim jacket. My heart was rapid, but for the first time since this madness began, I felt a tip of hope. They didn't know what I knew, and that made all the difference. I went down the stairs carrying the suitcase and a bag with some personal effects. Carlos was sitting on the couch, stirring on his cell phone. As he kicked his own father was routine. Fernanda was in the kitchen preparing a snack, whistling softly. Ready, son? My voice came out firmer than I expected. I am going. Carlos didn't even get his eyes off the phone. Great. And Dad, don't think about going back here filling the bag. This house is now ours and we want privacy, especially when the baby is born. Fernanda appeared at the kitchen door, biting an apple. Child needs tranquility, not problematic relative. I could have shouted, I could have cried, I could have begged, but I didn't do any of that. I just took my things and walked toward the door. When I was in the threshold, I turned one last time. Carlos, I just want you to know something. My voice was calm, almost serene. I love you, son. I will always love. And when the truth appears, and it always appears, I hope you remember that. He finally raised his eyes from his cell phone with an irritated expression. What a truth, Dad. What a melodrama is this now? You will find out. I closed the door and walked down the street where I had lived in the last 15 years. It was a simple street, from moan houses where everyone knew each other. Dona Rosa, my right neighbor, was watering the plants on the sidewalk. When he saw me with his suitcase, his eyes filled with worry. You're Tiao? What's going on? Dona Rosa was 72 years old, was a widow, and lived there longer than me. He was always an observant woman, those who lose nothing of what happens on the street. In recent months I had noticed that she had paid close attention to my house. I'm leaving, Dona Rosa. Carlos and Fernanda, well, they think it's better to live elsewhere. She dropped the hose and approached. Can I say something to you? Of course, owner. Come here. She took me to the gate of her house, away from the view of my old house. I didn't want to put myself, but there's a strange thing happening at your house for a while. My heart fired. What kind of strange thing? Visits, people I've never seen here, men of suit, elegant women, and always when you were not at home. She lowered her voice. And there is more. Last week I saw Fernanda putting some bottles of drips in the trash of her home. Pinga bottles? That's right. Those cheap bottles, cachaça. But I know the Lord doesn't drink it. The Lord only takes his beer from time to time. She looked at me in the eye. So Tião, they are setting something against the Lord. The pieces were starting to fit. The bottles in the trash were to create evidence that I was an alcoholic. The mysterious visits, probably lawyers, notaries, false witnesses. Dona Rosa, can you do me a favor? Of course, my son. Keep an eye on my house. Write down who comes in and who leaves. If you see something very strange, call me in this number. I wrote my phone on a piece of paper. I'm going to stay at my compadre Zé's house in Vila Madalena. Compadre Zé was José Carlos, my friend since the time we arrived from Minas. He was Carlos's baptism godfather, and I was the godfather of his son Marquinho. We had worked together in construction for over 20 years. You can leave, Sotio. And another thing, she hesitated. I always found this girl a little false. A lot of smile, a lot of sweetness, but cold eye. I look at those who are calculating something. And I took the bus to Vila Madalena with a tight heart, but with a clearer mind than it was for months. Dona Rosa had confirmed what I already suspected. Carlos and Fernanda had been riding a scam for a long time, but they didn't know I had discovered the truth by chance. 3 months ago, I had returned earlier from work because I had a headache. I entered home quietly through the back gate, as I always did not make noise. Carlos was working at home that day, and I didn't want to disturb. When I arrived in the kitchen, I heard voices in the living room. Carlos was talking to someone on the phone, and the tone of the conversation caught my attention. No, it can't be now. He's still very lucid. The lawyer said he needs evidence that he is not in mental conditions. I stopped at the kitchen door, hidden with my heart knocking hard. Fernanda is doing her part, leaving the bottles in his room, inventing stories for the neighbors about him to drink hidden. Carlos laughed. The old man doesn't even suspect anything. I felt the world collapse. My own son was talking about me like I was a hindrance. The plan is simple. First, we created evidence of alcoholism. Then, mental incompetence. Then we convince him to transfer the house to me to protection. If we resist, we internal him into a psychiatric clinic for a while until he agrees to sign the papers. I was listening to my son to plan my destruction, as if it were any business. No, mother, he won't stay at the house later. The idea is he disappears from our life. Fernanda is pregnant and we don't want an old madman disturbing our family. Mother? What mother? Carlos's mother had died 28 years ago. I know you don't like him very much since you came back, but it's the only way we get the house without having to wait for him to die. My head was running. What woman was Carlos calling a mother? And what did she mean by, since she came back? Okay, mother. When you come next week, we get the last details. And thanks for playing the lawyer. Without the lady, this plan would not work. Carlos hung up the phone, and I managed to climb hidden to my room. I sat on the bed, shaking, trying to sue what I had just heard. My son was conspiring against me with a woman he called a mother, a woman who was funding lawyers to take the house, a woman who was back. But who was this woman? Back to gift. Compadre Zay's house was simple, but welcoming. When I told him what was happening, he was furious. Your Tiao, this is a blow, the worst blow. Your son is stealing you. I know, compadre, but I need to find out who the woman is behind it all. What woman? I told him about the conversation I had heard 3 months ago. Zay was thoughtful. So Tiao, are you sure Lucia died? The question hit me as a lightning. What do you mean, compadre? Of course I'm sure. I was there in the hospital when she died. I held her hand. No, that's not that. Zay shook his head. I know she died. I was in the funeral, but are you sure she said it was? Zay, what question is this? Your Tiao, think to me. Did you know Lucia? Where even? At a church party 35 years ago. And her family? Did you know? I stopped to think. She said the family lived inside, which were very poor, that she had come to Sao Paulo to work. And did you meet someone in her family? No. She said they didn't approve of our marriage because I was very poor. So Tiao? Zay looked at me seriously. What if Lucia had a sister? A twin sister, maybe? The blood froze in my veins. What are you wondering? I'm saying that perhaps the woman who is helping Carlos is someone who looks a lot like Lucia, someone who knows all the secrets of the family. I took the envelope that was in my pocket. Inside were photos I had taken hiding 2 months ago, when I started to suspect everything. Photos of a woman with blonde hair leaving my house when I wasn't. A woman who, even from afar, reminded me someone. I showed the photos to Zay. My God from heaven. He widened his eyes. So Tiao, this woman is just like Lucia, but blonde. That's what I was thinking. And if, my phone rang. It was Dona Rosa. You're Tiao? You better come here fast. There's a woman in your house, a blonde woman about 50 years old, and she's sending both like the housewife. My blood boiled. I'm going there, Dona Rosa. I hung up the phone and looked at Zay. Compadre, it's time to find out who the ghost is coming back to haunt my life. When I went back to my street, I hid behind the neighbor's car and watched my house. Through the living room window, I was able to see Carlos, Fernanda, and a third person, a woman with blonde hair, gesticulating excitedly. And when she turned to the window, my heart almost stopped. It was the face of Lucia, the same face, the same strokes, the same expression, only 28 years older and with blonde hair. Lucia had a twin sister, a sister who had appeared to help my son destroy me. But why? What did she want? And most importantly, where did she have been all these years? The answer to these questions was inside my house, and I was going to find out, even if it was the last thing I did in my life. I watched my own home for 2 hours, hidden behind the neighbor's car, trying to understand what was happening inside. The blonde woman was still there, gesturing excitedly, as if giving orders to Carlos and Fernanda. When she finally left, I could see her face better. My God, it was like seeing a ghost. It was exactly the same as Lucia, but with dyed hair and some more wrinkles. The same height, the same way of walking, even the same way of moving hands when talking. So Tiao? Dona Rosa appeared on the side, scaring me. Are you okay? It's been 2 hours ago behind this car. Dona Rosa, did you see when this woman left? I saw, yes. She got into a very luxurious black car. And you know what's weird? Before getting into the car, she stared at my house as if she knew someone was watching. My blood froze. Did she see me? Dona Rosa, I really need your help. Can you keep watching my house? Write down everything that happens? Of course, my son, but tell me one thing. Who is this woman? She gave me a very strange feeling. I'm still trying to find out. but I'm sure she's behind it all. I returned to compadre Zay's house with my head was sealing. I needed to find out who this woman was and what she wanted, but where to start? Zay, I need to go to the cemetery where Lucia is buried. Why, you Tiao? I need to confirm if she really died, and if she died, I need to know if she had sisters, family, someone who looks like her. Good idea. Come on. In San Pedro Cemetery, in Villa Alpina, we sought the tomb of Lucia. When we got there, I took a shock. The tombstone was impeccable, with fresh flowers. Someone had been there recently. Say these flowers haven't been there for a long time. Someone came here this week. But who? You said her family never appears sky. I asked to talk to the cemetery administrator, Sir Jorge, a 60-year-old man who had worked there for over 30 years. So Jorge, do you remember Lucia Silva Santos? It was buried here in 1997. Lucia Silva Santos. He thought for a moment. Oh yes, I remember. New woman, she died of cancer. He left a small boy. That's the same. Do you remember if someone from her family came to the funeral? Boy, it's been so long. But now that you said, I remember something strange. On the day of the funeral, a woman appeared that was just like the dead. My heart fired. Do you remember anything else about this woman? I remember, yes. She had black hair at the time, but it was just like her wife. And you know what else? She came back here about 3 months ago, but now she was blonde. 3 months, just when I started listening to Carlos's strange conversations. Did she say something to you, Jorge? I said yes, asked about you. I wanted to know if you were still coming to visit the tomb, if you were right in health, these things. And did you tell you? I said you came every Sunday, that it looked like a working man. Honest. Why? I did something wrong? No, Sir Jorge. You helped me a lot. We left the cemetery with a certainty. The mysterious woman had been investigating my life for months. She knew my routine, knew where I was going, probably knew how far I worked. So Tiao, this story is getting very dangerous. Zay was worried. This woman didn't appear by chance. She has some plan. On the way home, my phone rang. It was Carlos. Father, where are you? Why, son? Because we need to talk. There are some things that you forgot to take. Forgot to take? I had taken everything that was mine. What things, Carlos? Come here, I explain. I hung up the phone with a bad feeling. They wanted to see me for some reason, and after what I had discovered, that couldn't be a good thing. Zay, they are calling me back. It won't go, Sotion. It's a trap. Yes, I will, but I will be prepared. I grabbed my old cell phone and set up to record audio. If they wanted to talk, I would have proof of everything that was said. When I arrived at my old house, Carlos was alone in the living room. Fernanda was not in sight. Where is Fernanda, son? She went to her mother. Carlos looked at me strangely. Sit there, Dad. I need to tell you something. I sat on the couch, keeping my cell phone in my pocket, recording everything. Dad, I was thinking, maybe we were very hard with you. Where was this change from? What do you mean, son? Fernanda talked to her mother and they think maybe you can stay here, but with some conditions. What conditions? Carlos got up and started walking around the room as he did when he was nervous. First condition, you will have to treat yourself. Inca Clinic to heal alcoholism. But Carlos, I'm not an alcoholic. Dad, it's no use denying it. We have evidence. He took a folder on the table. Inside I had pictures of me coming out of bars, medical documents, and even a psychiatric report. What documents are these, Carlos? I never had a psychiatric exam. Father, the Lord did, yes. 6 months ago. The Lord has not remembered because he was very confusing at the time. I took the documents with tremendous hands. It was my name, my ID, but I had never been in that office in my life. This is fake, Carlos. I was never in this place. Father, you are denying again. Do you see? It's exactly this kind of behavior that proves that you need help. I was being systematically crazy. They had created a fake medical record, forged photos, fake documents, everything to make me look crazy. And the second condition? You will have to sign a document officially transferring the house to me for the protection of the Lord himself. What if I don't accept these conditions? Carlos stopped walking and looked at me straight in the eyes. For the first time, I saw a coldness that scared me. Then we will have to take more drastic measures, Father. What measures? At that moment, the front door opened. It was Fernanda, and with her was the blonde woman, the woman who looked like Lucia. When I saw her closely, I almost passed out. It was as if Lucia had returned from the dead. Sebastião, the woman spoke my name with a voice that made me the blood freezing. It was the voice of Lucia. How long? Who is you? She smiled, a smile I knew very well. I'm Luciana, Lucia's twin sister. Luciana, the twin sister that Lucia never told me that she existed. Lucia never told me I had a sister. Lucia didn't say many things to you, Sebastião, neither about the family nor about the money he left to Carlos. What money? The inheritance money, that he should have been with me, but she left it to her grandson. Luciana approached me. Money you spent buying this house. My head was running. What inheritance? Lucia never had money. Oh, there was. Our family had a farm in Minas. When our parents died, Lucia sold her part and brought the money to Sao Paulo, but she died before she could use the money. This is a lie. It's true, yes, Vo. A children's voice surprised me. An 8-year-old girl appeared behind Luciana. Mom explained everything to me. Mommy, did Luciana have a daughter? This is Amanda, my daughter. Luciana put her hand on the girl's shoulder, and by right, she is the true heiress of Lucia's money. I was being attacked on all sides. First Carlos and Fernanda inventing me a story of alcoholism. Now a twin sister of Lutia with a daughter appeared, claiming an inheritance that never existed. Sebastião, I'll be very clear with you. Luciana sat in the armchair that was my favorite. You can accept Carlos's conditions and live your last years in a clinic, or you can resist and find out what happens to stubborn men of your age. What are you wanting to say? I am saying that men of their age have heart attacks, Sebastian. They suffer accidents, they get lost in the street and can't go home. It was a direct threat. She was threatening me with death. And there is one more thing. Carlos joined the group. Fernanda is not pregnant with me, father. Like this? She is pregnant with Luciana's son, Rodrigo. I looked at Fernanda, who had a mockery smile on her face. That's right, Sotio. Rodrigo and I have been together for 2 years. Carlos knew everything, and we just got together to get your trust. Carlos spoke as if he were telling the mood. For you to transfer the house to me without suspecting anything. I was in the middle of a conspiracy that involved my own son, my daughter-in-law, a woman who claimed to be the sister of my dead wife, and even a child they were wearing as a piece of the plan. So, Sebastião? Luciana got up. What is the clinic or the consequences? I looked at them all. My son, that I had raised alone. The daughter-in-law I had received as a daughter. The woman who claimed to be my wife's sister. The girl who looked at me like I'm a monster. I need time to think. There is no time to think. Carlos was firm. Decide now. All good. I got up slowly. I accept. Everyone smiled. Pleased. Great choice, Dad. But I have a condition. What condition? Luciana frowned. I want to see the original documents of the inheritance of Lucia. If you will be with everything that is mine, I at least want to understand where this money you say that she had from. No problem. Luciana opened a folder. It's all here. I took the documents and pretended to be reading. In fact, I was gaining time, because there was something they didn't know. My cell phone was recording everything since I got there, and there was something else. As they said, I had recognized something in Luciana's voice, something that made me realize who she really was. It's all right then. I folded the papers. I will accept going to the clinic. Good, father. You made the right decision. I walked toward the door, but when I was leaving, I turned one last time. Just a curiosity, Luciana. How did you manage to imitate Lucia's voice so well? She hesitated by a fraction of a second. It's because we are twin sisters, Sebastian. And even, I smiled for the first time in days, because I just realized that you have a problem, Luciana. What problem? Lucia was left-handed, and you just signed these documents with your right hand. The silence that followed was deafening. And there is one more thing, I continued, knowing it was my only chance. Lucia had a birthmark behind her left ear. Do you have? Luciana instinctively took her hand to her ear. And there's something else you don't know, my dear. My voice was firm now. I recorded our whole conversation. All the threats, all confession about the coup, all expressions of satisfaction became panicked. Father, the Lord is bluffing. I'm really Carlos. Want to bet? But before I could leave, I felt a strong pain in the back of the neck. Rodrigo, Luciana's son, had appeared behind me with a piece of wood in hand. Everything got dark. I woke up with a terrible pain in my head and a taste of blood in my mouth. I was on the floor of the basement of my own house with my hands tied behind my back and feet also stuck. The darkness was almost total. Only a small crack of light entered a tall window. He woke up. It was Rodrigo's voice, Luciana's son, a 25-year-old boy who had knocked out me of his back like a coward. Excellent. Luciana EC's voice. It was on the stairs. Now we can solve this once and for all. They went down to the basement. Carlos, Fernanda, Luciana, Rodrigo, and even the girl Amanda. Everyone looking at me like a caged animal. Sebastião, you complicated things a lot. Luciana lit an old lamp that illuminated my face. Now we'll have to take more drastic measures. What measures? My voice came out hoarse, but I wasn't afraid. It was furious. We will have to invent that you had an outbreak, attacked the family, and had to be hospitalized in a psychiatric clinic. Carlos spoke as if he was discussing the time. Forever. And your cell phone? Fernanda shook my phone in front of my face. What a coincidence, it was not recording anything. It must have been your imagination. They had erased the recording, or at least they thought they had. You can kill me. You can hospitalize me. You can do whatever you want. I looked straight into each of them. But you made a very big mistake. What error? Luciana laughed. You underestimated an old bricklayer. What are you talking about, Dad? Carlos was impatient. I'm saying that you are not the only smart ones in this story. It was true. In the last 3 months since I discovered the conspiracy, I had not stopped. I had prepared for that moment. Rodrigo, take the gasoline, Luciana ordered coldly. Let's simulate a fire. It will seem that the old man had an outbreak, set fire to the house, and died in the fire. No, Mom, Amanda shouted for the first time. He did nothing bad for us. Shut up, Amanda, Luciana slapped the girl. You are too small to understand. At that moment I knew that Amanda was not to blame for anything. It was just a child being used by unscrupulous adults. Luciana, can I ask a question before I die? He can. Who you really are? Because I'm sure you are not Lucia's sister. She hesitated for a second but then smiled. Do you really want to know? Okay, since you're going to die. She approached me. I'm Rita Silva. I was Lucia's best friend at school in Minas Gerais. Rita Silva? That's right. I've always been jealous of Lucia. She was more beautiful, smarter, got a hard-working husband, had a son. I stayed behind alone with a daughter to raise. And Amanda? Amanda is the daughter of Lucia. The world stopped around me. Like this? Lucia was pregnant when she died, Sebastião. 6 months. The doctors managed to save the child. Rita smiled wickedly. I was in the hospital that day. I said I was her sister and adopted the girl. I looked at Amanda and now everything made sense. Her eyes were equal to those of Lucia. The shape of the face was the same as Carlos's when he was a child. Is Amanda my daughter? My voice came out like a whisper. No, Amanda is Rodrigo's daughter now. Rita lied blatantly. You were never her father. Yes, he was, Amanda shouted, crying. Aunt Rita told me when she was drunk. He's my real father, and Carlos is my brother. Carlos got white. What story is this? The story that your dear mother, Rita, never told you, I said, looking straight at my son. The story she stole her newborn sister and raised her daughter. This is a lie, Rita shouted. It's true, yes, Amanda kept crying. Aunt Rita said that when my mother died, she took me from the hospital because she wanted to have a daughter of Lucia. She said the Lord never knew I existed. The silence that followed was deafening. Carlos was looking at Amanda as if he was seeing a ghost. Amanda, are you my sister? Yes, I am. The girl tried to approach him, but Rita held her tightly. At that moment, something inside Carlos seemed to wake up. For the first time in months, I saw in his eyes the boy I had raised. Rita, is that true? Carlos, don't listen to him. He's trying to manipulate you. Rita, answer the question, Carlos shouted for the first time in his life for that woman. Okay, it's true. Lucia was pregnant when she died. I got the girl because you never knew her. What's the problem? The problem is that you made me steal my own father. You made me kick him from home. You made me participate in a blow against my own family. Carlos was crumbling. The chip was falling. And you, Fernanda? He turned to his wife. Did you know that? Fernanda couldn't look into his eyes. Carlos, you knew. I knew. But Carlos, think of money. With the house sold, we can start a new life. With money stolen from my father? After finding out this girl is my sister? Carlos approached me and began to untie the ropes of my hands. Father, forgive me. For God's sake, forgive me. Don't do that, Carlos. Rita pulled a knife from her bag. If you let go, I count on the police. You planned everything. You are arrested. And do you think I care? Carlos finished untie me. I prefer to get stuck than living knowing that I betray my own family. When I got up, I felt something strange in my pocket. My cell phone backup. They had caught the main one, but they didn't know that I always carried 2 cell phones. And this one was recording from the moment I woke up. Rita, you have just confessed to kidnapping, document forgery, attempted murder, and extortion. I showed her cell phone. Everything recorded. Her face was livid. And there's one more thing you don't know. I smiled for the first time in days. Before coming here today, I left a letter with all the tests in the hand of compadre Zay. If I don't call him until 8 at night, he goes straight to the police. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 7:45. 15 minutes, Rita. You have 15 minutes to decide if you want to surrender or be arrested in front of the child. This is bluff. Want to bet? At that moment, they touched the bell up there. Police! Open the door. It was compadre Zay's voice along with other men. How did they know? Rita was desperate. Because I also left instructions for them to come here if I didn't show up at Zay's house until 7:30. I looked at her with satisfaction, and also because Dona Rosa was watching the house and saw when you brought me unconscious here. The police sirens were getting higher. Amanda, come here, my daughter. I extended my arms to her. The girl ran to me crying, Dad, I always knew that the Lord was my father. I could just not talk because Aunt Rita said it was a secret. I hugged my daughter for the first time in 8 years of her life. My second daughter, which I didn't even know existed, Carlos. I looked at my son. There is still time for you to do the right thing. I know, Dad. Carlos looked at Rita and Fernanda with disgust. Rita, you destroyed my family. And Fernanda, you cheated on me with another man. You both disgust me. Carlos, don't be an idiot. Fernanda tried to approach him. Think of our son. What our son? You said you are Rodrigo's son. The police were breaking the door up. Rita Silva, you're stuck. It was the voice of a policeman. We have arrest warrant for kidnapping, extortion and falsification of documents. Rita looked around, desperate. It was trapped. Rodrigo, take the gasoline. Let's burn everything. No, Mom. Enough. Rodrigo threw the gallon of gasoline away. I won't become a killer because of your crazy plans. You're cowards, Rita shouted. You will regret it. She took the knife and advanced toward Mai and Amanda, but Carlos put himself in front. Rita, for that, it won't hurt anyone else in my family. Get out the front, kid. She tried to pierce Carlos with the knife, but he held her arm. In the fight, the knife flew far away. At this point, the police went down to the basement. No one moves. Hands up. Rita, Fernanda, and Rodrigo raised their hands. Sergeant, I'm Sebastião Silva Santos. I identified myself. I made the complaint. Mr. Sebastião, are you okay? Do we need to call an ambulance? I'm fine, but this woman confessed to kidnapping of my daughter, attempted murder, extortion, and falsification of documents. It's all recorded here. I handed the cell phone to the policeman, and my son Carlos here is a victim as much as I was. He was manipulated by this woman. It's true, Sergeant, Carlos confirmed. I was fooled. When I discovered the truth, I helped my father. But when the police went to arrest Rita, she gave one last letter. Sergeant, this man is dangerous. He has mental disorder. It has medical documents proving. She even tried to use the fake documents against me. And truth, Fernanda shouted. He's an alcoholic and violent. We have proof. The policeman stopped and looked at me. Sir, is it true? Sergeant, all these documents are false. I can prove it. Because the doctor who signed these reports died 3 years ago, and the office that appears at the address never existed. The policeman took the documents and analyzed. Sir, I'll need to check this information. You can check it out, and you can take toxicological examination at me right now to prove that I am not an alcoholic. Rita had a panic face. His last asset had failed. This won't be like this, she shouted as she was handcuffed. I'll tell you everything. I'll say you killed Lucia. I'll invent anything. You can invent whatever you want, Rita, I said calmly, because now I have the most important thing in the world on my side. What? The truth. 3 months later, I am here sitting in the court bank, seeing Rita Silva is sentenced to 12 years in prison for kidnapping, extortion, falsification of documents, and attempted murder. Beside me are Carlos and Amanda, my 8-year-old daughter I didn't even know existed. Array Rita Silva is considered guilty of all the crimes imputed. The voice of the judge has echoed for the crowded court. In addition to the prison sentence, the defendant must pay compensation to the victims and will definitely lose the guard of the smallest Amanda Silva Santos. Rita looked at me with pure hatred before being taken handcuffed. Even in defeat, she was still trying to intimidate me, but I was no longer afraid. I felt sorry. Dad, Carlos held my hand. We achieved. We got my son. Fernanda was also convicted, but her sentence was smaller because she collaborated with the court after she discovered the whole truth. Rodrigo, Rita's son, also took 2 years, but in a semi-open regime because he was a minor when it all started and was also manipulated by his mother. We left the court under the strong sun of September. Amanda held my right hand and Carlos held the left. For the first time in a long time, I felt complete. Dad, now we will live together forever? Amanda looked at me with those eyes that were the same as those of Lucia. Yes, my princess, forever. Back to our house. When we entered the house, Dona Rosa was on the sidewalk with a cornmeal cake in her hands. So Tião, how was it in court? Rita was convicted, Dona Rosa. 12 years. Thank God, she sighed, relieved. And is this Amanda? This is my daughter, Dona Rosa, the daughter I didn't know I had. Amanda made a polite reverence for the neighbor, the way well-educated child does. She's beautiful, her Tião, like Lucia when she was young. We entered the house, and for the first time in months, I really felt at home. Carlos had returned to live with me after Fernanda was arrested. Amanda was getting to know the room I had prepared for her, decorated with dolls and toys that I bought with the first salary after all this confusion. Father, can I say something to you? Carlos approached me in the kitchen. Of course, son. I want you to know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for what I did with the Lord. Carlos was different. The arrogance was gone. The coldness was disappeared. He was again the boy I had raised. Carlos, son, what happened, passed. You have been fooled. Rita has manipulated you since she appeared. But I should have realized, Father. I should have trusted the Lord. The Lord raised me alone, worked 3 jobs to study me, never missed me anything, and I was able to believe that the Lord was a violent alcoholic. Carlos started to cry. That 32-year-old man was crying like a child. Son, come here. I hugged my boy. Do you know why I forgive you? Why, Dad? Because Father's love is unconditional. No matter what you do, no matter how many times you make a mistake, you'll always be my son, and I will always love you. We both cried there in the kitchen. We cry years of pain, separation, misunderstanding, but we also cry with relief, gratitude, love, reunited. A week later, Amanda was playing in the backyard when she played the bell. It was Compadre Zay, with an envelope in his hands. So tiens, a registered letter arrived for the Lord. I opened the envelope and found an official document. It was the definitive deed of the house, recognizing that I was the only legal owner. All forged transfers had been nullified by the court. And there is one more thing. Zay smiled. Remember Rita said Lucia had inheritance? I remember. Another lie from her. It was not a lie, Utio. I looked at him without understanding. The lawyer found that there was really a farm from the Lucia family in Minas, and she really sold her part before she died. So what? So the money has been in a savings account for 28 years. With interest and correction, it became almost 500,000 reais. I felt the legs missed. 500,000? And by the right of inheritance, this money is yours and their children, Carlos and Amanda. It was not possible. After a lifetime fighting, working son, carrying a bag of cement on my back, I found that my wife had left enough money for me to never need to work. Zay, what am I going to do with so much money? Well, you will live. You will create Amanda, will help Carlos rebuild his life, travel, will rest. You deserve it. That night, he was sitting on the living room couch, seeing Amanda to do the homework at the kitchen table, while Carlos washed the dinner dishes. A simple scene, but it was worth more than any money in the world. Dad, can I ask you something? Carlos dried his hands and sat next to me. He can. How did you manage to forgive everything? How can you look at me without anger? I thought for a moment before answering. Carlos, do you know what I learned in recent months? What? I learned that life is too short to keep grudge. I learned that family is not perfect, but it is what we have most importantly. I learned that we all go wrong, we all fall, but what matters is having someone who helps us get up. Amanda dropped the pencil and came to sit on my lap. Dad, the teacher said every family has problems. Is it true? It's true, my princess. But do you know what the secret is? Which? The secret is that when the family really loves itself, the problems become small, close to love, and we really love each other. I looked at Carlos, who had tears full of tears. I looked at Amanda, who looked at me with that purity that only child has. We love each other very much, Amanda. Very, very. 2 years later, today is Sunday, and like every Sunday, the three of us, we go to the cemetery to visit the tomb of Lucia. Amanda always takes flowers. Carlos always cleans the tombstone, and I always talk to my wife, telling the news of the family. Lucia, our daughter, is growing beautiful and intelligent. She took a note 10 in math this week. I speak softly, as if she could hear me. And Carlos became a wonderful father for her. You would be proud. Carlos met a girl named Patricia, teacher at Amanda's school. They have been dating for 6 months, and she treats Amanda as a daughter. She is a simple, honest woman who works hard and has a good heart. I stopped working as a bricklayer. With the inheritance money, I opened a small construction school for needy young people, teaching for poor boys what I learned in 40 years of profession. It's my way of returning to life everything she gave me. Amanda is in the 3rd year. She is the best student in the class and wants to be a doctor when she grows up. Every day she makes me laugh with her discoveries, her questions, her curiosity about the world. Father, do you believe Mom Lucia is seeing us from heaven? Amanda always asks this question when we saw to the cemetery. Yes, I believe my daughter, and I'm sure she's proud of the family we have become. Final reflection. Today at 60, sitting here on the porch of my house, seeing Amanda playing in the backyard while Carlos prepares Sunday lunch, I understand that life taught me lessons that no school could teach. I learned that betrayal hurts, but forgiveness heals. I learned that the family can break, but when there is true love, it rebuilds stronger. I learned that justice sometimes takes, but always comes, to those who have patience and faith. I learned that a child who makes mistakes is still a child, and a father who loves, he is a father. I learned that a liar woman can deceive for a while, but the truth always comes to light. I learned that money helps, but does not buy happiness. Happiness is in the simple things, in the hug of a daughter, in the forgiveness of a son, in the peace of a house where there is love, and I learned, especially, that it is never too late to start over. At 58, when it looked like my life was over, I found that it was actually just starting a new chapter. Rita is still stuck. I get letters from it from time to time, asking for forgiveness, saying that it regrets. I don't answer, not for grudge, but because some wounds need silence to heal. Fernanda served her sentence and moved to another state. I heard that he married again and is trying to rebuild his life. I hope she can. Everyone deserves a second chance. Rodrigo also redid life. Today he works in a mechanical workshop and studies at night. Sometimes he goes here to see Amanda, who still considers him half-brother. I learned that the boy was also a victim of his mother's manipulations. "Vos Sebastião!" Amanda screams from the backyard. "Come play catch with me." At 60, playing catch with my 10-year-old daughter, in the backyard of the house I almost lost, surrounded by the almost destroyed family, I understand that life is full of second chances, and third, and Wednesdays. The important thing is never to give up on believing that in the end love always wins. Because family is not the one who shares the same blood. Family is the one who shares the same heart. And when the heart is sincere, no lie is strong enough to destroy what God has united.